Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. Starting a new job always has a lot of opportunities and challenges. How about one that is responsible for 5,500 employees, bridges, libraries, treatment plants, curbside collection, graffiti, removal of graffiti, sidewalks, street lights, just the gamut of everything that makes up Los Angeles. I'm delighted to welcome the new president of the governing board of the LA City Public Works, Greg Goode. What were you thinking getting this job in the middle of a pandemic?
It's a great question. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to take this job. It's the time to dig in and help make sure that the Department of Public Works, which has actually been at the very forefront in making sure that the city is continuing to move forward despite this existential challenge we're facing, to help ensure that we continue to do that. And so it's really, I'm very flattered and honored to have been appointed by the mayor and approved by the council and to take this thing on.
All right, well, you have a very eclectic background in civic leadership, in education, you were a teacher. In entertainment, you've actually been on stage and screen, public office. I mean, how does all of that experience work into this new role as the president of the governing board?
Well, I think that the president of the Board of Public Works, the Department of Public Works, has to deal with an incredible universe of stakeholders, constituents, elected officials, certainly the departments, 5,500 city employees, the folks on the front line, and making sure that the Department of Public Works engine keeps running. And so, the eclectic nature, if you will, of my background and resume, the diverse nature of the relationships and the collaborations that I've had the opportunity and the privilege to be engaged in, I hope and think will serve me very well. I think, again, being able to navigate a landscape of really diverse stakeholders at Public Works is crucial. And so I'm confident, hopeful, that my background helps serve me well in that.
I just heard the twang. As you know, we've only been talking for a little bit, and you came in with your Dallas mask on, and I hadn't heard it until just now. So, what prompted your determination to get to Los Angeles in the first place? Because as we said earlier, you were born and raised in Dallas.
Frankly, it's interesting. That twang just doesn't go away. You'll hear a few y'alls here and there as well.
Okay.
So it's interesting. I had a wonderful childhood in Texas. I didn't really intend to come to Los Angeles. I went to school on the East Coast with my twin brother. And we didn't know where we wanted to land. So I came here to Los Angeles fully intending to probably go someplace else, as a young man trying to figure things out. And I fell deeply, deeply in love with this city. It was an incredibly challenging time. I came here in 1992, and this was right on the heels of the civil unrest, leading up to the Northridge earthquake. And but for me, this was almost like the crossroads of so many crucial issues that not only would California, not only would the United States, but the planet would be dealing with, ranging from topography to bilingual education, to public education, to the sort of shifting from a European East Coast axis to Pacific and West Coast axis. I quickly felt like this was the absolute only place to be if you want to be involved in making positive change and being engaged in the issues of the day. And I've never looked back. And I plan to be here till I'm gone.
Well, don't go anywhere yet, especially not for the next few minutes. But, talking about that background, you also were an educator, you were a teacher, you worked in the Compton School District. I mean, what did you see? What did you see in that arena in the city that you carry with you?
I think that, there's a lot of hyperbole, there's a lot of misinformation that happens around the public education system. First and foremost, what I saw, and I taught in the Compton Unified School District, I taught in the Inglewood Unified School District. I'm very, very familiar with the LA Unified School District. I did some work from the mayor around LAUSD, and I have family involved with LAUSD. First and foremost, kids want to learn. Families want kids to learn, and teachers are fundamentally and energetically and zealously committed to that learning happening. The challenges are very often resource-based. You can have all the great energy on and all of the commitment that you can possibly muster, and it's there. But if resources are not adequate, if resources do not meet that demand and meet that energy on a meta scale, on a macro scale, then it's very difficult to really reach the achievement levels that you need. But it was also, honestly, teaching was one of the most, if not my favorite job I've ever had. It is the most dynamic job I've ever experienced. I loved it, and still in touch with many of my kids, many of my students. Yeah.
You mentioned the fact that you worked with the mayor's office in regards to LAUSD, but you've worked with the mayor's office in a lot of things. As Deputy Infrastructure Services, obviously you interacted a lot with Public Works and with other departments. So does that make the learning curve of this particular job easier because you already have an insider's view on how it all, operates on a daily basis?
Well, I think there's no scenario in which this job would be easy. Or probably easier. I joke that I went from drinking water from one fire hose on a daily basis to another fire hose, and thankfully I really love water. But I do think that those opportunities will be helpful to me in this job and in this post. I had the opportunity as Director of Infrastructure with the mayor to work with all of the departments and bureaus that I'll be working with, including most of the all of the general managers. And I knew then what I know now, and what's even been further crystallized over the course of the last several months, which is we have a team of superstars in the Department of Public Works, our general managers, and then every level of those departments, including, and in particular, the frontline workers who are just amazing, courageous frontline folks, essential workers. They're incredible, and they do incredible work every day. And you've seen that in particular over the last 4 months. So much of what Public Works does, if it happens and is executed well, should fly under the radar screen. We don't need to know that our wastewater is traveling under us all over this city every single day, every single hour. Ideally, we don't need to be thinking about the trash getting picked up. We don't need to be thinking about whether the street light is a high voltage light that needs to be converted to an LED light. Ideally, we don't have to know those things, and they just happen the way they should. But there are thousands and thousands of people with really great leaders at every level making those happen. I saw that working in the mayor's office. I'm very excited to continue facilitating to the degree that I can that work as president of Public Works.
How do the different departments work together? Because, just in a civics lesson here, the mayor's office obviously has an overview, but how do the departments themselves work together? How do the different organizations that get this city going on a daily basis? Lots of communication, lots of cross-pollination, lots of coordination?
Yes, thankfully, and I don't presuppose that that's the case in every city, but the mayor and the leaders of the bureaus and frankly my predecessor, Kevin James, former President Kevin James, deserve a lot of credit for helping to facilitate that. As you mentioned, under the city charter, the mayor is officially the chief executive officer of the city and oversees the departments. And as such, the mayor's office works really closely, hand in glove with the departments. And those departments also work very closely with the council. By necessity, they do work closely together. They have to work closely together. It's exceedingly rare that there's a project of any type, of any scale in the city of Los Angeles, under the purview of Public Works that does not include multiple departments. particularly multiple departments in Public Works. So if we're not working together, and I do feel like that's a big part of my job is to help facilitate that, if we're not working together, then we're going to have problems.
You mentioned Kevin James. He was in the role for 7 years. Did he give you any advice? Did he tell you what you should be looking for? You know, I mean, literally, how does that transition work? Because he obviously, you know, being there for 7 years, that's a goodly portion of time. He's seen a lot of changes. He's incorporated a lot of strategies. You know, is it been a good handoff? Did he hand the baton well? And what does he tell you?
Anyone who knows Kevin James knows he's generous with advice. I hope he's watching. The transition's been fantastic. Kevin created enormous shoes to fill. He was a great president of the Board of Public Works. The mayor, me, every Angelino should be very grateful for the service he provided. He's continuing that service, working in the mayor's office now. Doing some of the stuff that I used to do, actually. So we've had a really nice opportunity to continue to work together. We worked together closely over the last 7 years, so that transition's been seamless to the degree that, again, I'm taking on a fire hose that's running hard. And, you know, but it is constant. I believe in over-communication. Kevin James believes in the same, and we will do that. We're on each other's speed dial. I do not have any compunction about asking for guidance, for advice. I've talked with a number of former presidents of the Board of Public Works recently toward that end, and I will rely heavily on him, and hopefully he'll rely on me with his new work too.
You are taking up some of the other responsibilities that he had. You'll be with the Film Commission. So how is that? Is it you take the exact same role, or is it a kind of an amalgamation of a different role?
I think it'll be iterative. It'll be evolving. Certainly, at the very least, you know, there is I mean, clearly the filming industry, or the motion picture, well, not just motion picture, but the entertainment industry is central and fundamental to this city's economy. It will be crucial as we emerge out of the myriad pandemics we're working with and working through and working to emerge from right now. And all of the bureaus play a role, particularly in location filming. And that's everything from permits to, you know, maintaining the streets in a way that makes them film friendly, et cetera, to, you know, street lighting and making sure that, you know, that the street lights are working when you're trying to film. And so, and then there's a constant sort of problem-solving dynamic that happens in the sort of dynamism of filming, and Public Works is front and center in terms of that problem-solving and helping make sure that that filming happens seamlessly and that it is friendly to neighborhoods, friendly to communities. That's the flip side of it, and making sure that there's reciprocity in terms of neighbors and constituents, not being overly encumbered by the filming that happens in this city, but making sure that this dynamic economic engine is rolling fast and hard. And so Public Works will play a big role. I'm looking forward to that and helping to facilitate.
I mentioned at the top, and there's certainly no surprise here, that you have taken over this role in the middle of an international crisis of magnitude that nobody can predict. How do you then manage an organization? Do you go in with big, grand ideas, or do you just try to do your decision-making day by day based on what fire's in front of you, and then you take your fire hose and you put that fire out? I mean, how are you able to even walk into this? Or are you just following on Kevin's footsteps until things are quiet enough that you can start strategically making your own plans? How are you going to do this?
Well, crazy as it may sound, I would say all of the above. I mean, first and foremost, it is absolutely crucial that the president of the Board of Public Works and the commissioners, and I have great colleagues on the Board of Public Works who showed great confidence in electing me president, and then the department heads and all of our frontline workers have to be committed to making sure the trains run on time, right? Angelinos deserve that, no matter how many pandemics we're dealing with. And by the way, I would argue that we're actually dealing with a couple of international pandemics. One's a few months old, one's a few centuries old, and that's the structural racism that we've rightfully been forced to look closely at and deal with all across this country and planet right now. And so, I think it's, regardless of that, Angelenos rightfully expect that we take care of business, right? Again, that the trees are getting trimmed, that the trash is getting picked up, that potholes are being fixed. And we will do that, and I'm fully committed to that, and Kevin was exemplary in making sure those things happen. I also think that it would be irresponsible to not be cognizant of the moment. Certainly the city and the region, and I would argue the Department of Public Works, has to be aware of the challenges of resiliency that this very unforeseen existential crisis thrust at us. And so I am very committed to making sure that we're learning from the challenges and the opportunities that are continuing to emerge from the pandemic. Everything from what telecommuting offers, along with the challenges it creates, to making sure that we're able to do things seamlessly, regardless of whether we're eye to eye or over a Zoom. Along with that, I think that the pandemic has laid bare very profound injustices that we've explicitly and tacitly been aware of for many centuries and certainly for many decades. And it behooves us, and I certainly am committed to, looking critically at everything we do. And making sure that the Department of Public Works is an engine for equity. And that is racial equity, that is gender equity, that is orientation equity, and absolutely looking at everything we're doing through that lens, just as the mayor has, just as the city council is. And I'm excited about that opportunity. We need to make sure that the city is functioning on a level of sustainability that is going to address or ready us for the inevitable ravages of climate change. That has not gone away despite the pandemic. And then we have very existential crises in terms of the unsheltered in this city, and Public Works can play a role in ensuring that the unsheltered are treated humanely, that we are housing as many folks as possible, as quickly as possible, while also meeting the needs of neighborhoods and communities. And so I look forward to making sure the trains run on time, and I look forward to looking expansively around those issues, making sure that this is as equitable a city as possible, making sure that it's as sustainable a city as possible, and making sure it's as resilient a city as possible.
Let's assume that the crisis is past, at least as far as the health crisis is concerned, because I do think the other systematic problems that you addressed, are going to take a little bit more time. How do you envision things? How do you want it to see? You just said you want an equitable city that is, obviously sustainable and has, a forward-thinking approach. Everyone, how do you see it? What would your dream city look like? And is it even possible to answer that question?
Well, I think it's exciting to answer that question. What we rightfully look at as the challenges of right now need to become windows of opportunity. And so I think that there's a real opportunity in looking closely and making sure that all of our services are serving the city in the most equitable and fair manner possible. That we are creating as many opportunities for as broad and inclusive a population as possible in terms of our hiring, in terms of our contracting, and really making sure that all playing fields are level. I think that there is a real window of opportunity because there's going to be enormous appetite, economic appetite. There's going to be appetite to grind forward this city and this economy with lots of challenges and lots of really profound foundational things to address, with still running fast and hard, and there's no reason not to get back there. But let's do that, and I think that the Public Works Department can be a really significant engine towards this. Let's do that in an equitable way, where there is really structural fairness in our hiring, structural fairness in our contracting, and that there is sustainable practices applied to everything we're doing. Whether that is continuing to, again, change streetlights to LED. We're almost done with that. Making sure that we're fulfilling the mayor's commitment to have all recycled water at Hyperion by 2035. Those goals can't change despite the pandemic, because the challenges that they were reflective of haven't gone away. So that's the city that I hope the Department of Public Works will continue to contribute to.
And lots of trees.
And lots of trees. Very excited about that. And trees in places where heretofore there has been very limited canopy. There's a real, imbalance in terms of where you have, sorry to jump on.
Not at all.
There's been, there's a lot of imbalance in terms of where you have dense tree canopy. And trees are superheroes, they create shade, they keep places cool, and they capture carbon. And so, frontline communities that have been, victims of environmental injustice over the years need to have as many trees as other communities. And so, yes, we'll work on that too.
All right, I'm not telling secrets here, because you have touted how proud you are to be married to the Deputy Attorney General one of the Deputy Attorney Generals for California. So you have this very dynamic household in which you have a local perspective as well as a state perspective. I can't imagine what dinner conversation must be like at your house, but is it great to have that perspective in your realm as well?
Well, first of all, the 9-year-old at the table really dominates that dinner conversation, to be sure.
As they do.
I think I lose most debates in the house. B, have the benefit of living with two women who are infinitely more intelligent than me, and I rely on it heavily. So, and it is great to have a partner who is committed to the same things, and we're each other's sounding board on lots of things. So it's wonderful.
And she did not scream and yell when you told her that you were taking this role during this period in time. She didn't try to argue you out of it.
No, she was very, very excited and I think very proud. Yeah.
All right, so the word eclectic was used, and you've also used it as well, but you have some passions. I don't think I quite understand what the program for torture victims is, where you serve in a philanthropic capacity. So how did you get involved in that, and what exactly is it?
So the Program for Torture Victims is a nonprofit organization, the largest sort of full-service agency for survivors of state-sponsored torture.
Oh gosh.
It's an incredibly vital service. LA, not surprisingly, because we are, as a dear friend has said to me many times, we are the city of second chances, and it is also the capital in the United States of survivors of state-sponsored torture. It's not a revelation that in places all over the globe, everyone from LGBTQ folks to journalists to union organizers are not only oppressed via media and other means, but physically and violently. And they come with enormous challenges in any situation, because very often they have no money, they're not able to work, and they need support and they need help. And the Program for Torture Victims provides that through myriad partnerships with medical care facilities, with law firms. We help them through the asylum process. We help make sure that their medical needs, which are profound and acute in many, many cases, are met. And then we straight up help them try to figure out where they're going to live, how they're going to handle, transportation, even, how they're going to get food, because many of them start off literally penniless, and they're some of the most incredibly courageous human beings you have ever met. They have gone through rings of fire that we can't even imagine. And so when I was introduced to this organization a number of years ago, actually by a former Commissioner of Public Works, Julie Gutman, who was the executive director at the time, I was inspired immediately. All you got to do is meet these folks, and you realize if they can go through what they've gone through, then they deserve our love, they deserve our respect and our commitment. So folks should go to www.ptvla.org. ptvla.org. And they can volunteer, they can donate goods. I mean, we need all of it.
All right.
And thanks for asking.
Well, of course, you know, as I said, you have an interesting background. I should tell you that I looked hard and long and just with a lot of investigative passion, but I could only find the poster for The Fog. And I'll clarify, The Fog being a starring role in a feature film that you did. So, curiosity, what was The Fog, and what happened to your acting career, Greg?
That is so funny. The Fog was, frankly, I chased my demons, and I did a lot of theater, did a number of small films. And The Fog was this wonderful story written by a dear friend of mine named Rob Tobin. I must share Rob's name, about two brothers, one of whom has just gotten out of prison. The other is sort of navigating the landscape of his brother having just gotten out of prison.
Who are you?
I'm the brother. I'm the car salesman brother who gets his brother out of prison, and he convinces me to bring together all of our buddies and do a Shakespeare play in town. Which I agree to only because I love him so much. It sounds a little out there, but it was actually quite inspiring. Yeah, and I'm very proud of it. Yeah. So.
Very nice. But then the career. I mean, you had a few films, including one with Mel Gibson. So what happened to just was not your true calling?
No, actually, and that was I think the epiphany. Actually, I force-fed myself the opportunity to do a one-man show, actually, and I had this revelation that was, I had spent the first 10 years of my life and career in public education and very engaged in what I believe is social justice work as an educator and working in public education, and I needed to chase this, and I sort of had my run. I came to the realization that unless you can't live without it, then it's not what you should be doing. And I didn't quite feel like that. And I felt like I had done what I needed to do, and then jumped back into this work.
Well, there are similarities because you then now have the opportunity to work with a highly diverse and interesting cast of characters.
That is absolutely right.
There are heroes and there are demons in every responsibility.
Indeed, yeah.
So congratulations on pursuing this, and if you could tell Greg Good from 5 years ago, what he should be looking forward to, what would you have told him?
Really challenging, dynamic, and inspiring opportunities, and a real opportunity. And this is something I'm grateful to the mayor for. I'm grateful to the city council. I'm grateful to all of our colleagues in the city family. An opportunity to impact lives in a meaningful way. That's what this work is about, and in a positive way. That's what this work is about, and that's what the folks in that building are committed to, and that's what I'd say myself is jump in, be relentless, be constantly learning, and outwork everybody.
And I'm sure you probably want to hear from your constituents too. So if people want to reach out to the Department of Public Works, I imagine that there's an opportunity for them to do that.
Yes, our website, which I am incredibly derelict, I cannot.
Don't worry about it. We'll make sure we put it up there. So it'd be good for people to hear about things that are happening in their own community.
Absolutely, and we're an open door, and certainly on that sort of those basic things that happen to us every day, including reporting potholes, et cetera, go to MyLA 311, and we're on it.
Well, again, it was really nice to meet you. Congratulations on your new job, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Maria. I really appreciate being here.
All right.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap on this LA Currents.